Begin this morning with the Nation newspaper. At the top nameplate of the Nation newspaper, we see the conversations around Osun State. Reinstated Osun Council chairman returned to secretariat. We'll bring some conversations around that much later. FIRS files suit seeking $79 or $79.51 billion from Binance for economic losses. This is, based on the accusations that has been making the rounds thus far. And so the FIRS is kicking. And something on autonomy, autonomy not licensed to misuse funds. EFCC warns councils. Olamide, I couldn't agree less on this. Remember, one of the things we saw some weeks ago was that part of the reason why that policy has not completely been activated yet was that the CBN was waiting for some local government, or most actually, to present their audited accounts before that can be done. But the EFCC is giving them a radar ahead of time. When this money comes, it's not for party. It's not for party.
And I think it's actually, a red light. The fact that, some local councils are yet to, remedied. I think that should not be exactly another issue. And now that we have been able, to fight generally for some of these local government chairmen to take hold of their local government, it's expected at this time where, of course, we're expecting them, to take attention away from the center, from the state, to own their councils, own their local government. And now they should be able to account. Now, this is not another opportunity for you to misuse funds. It should be another opportunity for you to also generate more. Use these funds to, generate more revenue that can, also be sent back to also support the center. And all Nigerians must be aware that once this kicks into action, you can hold your local government chairman or chairlady to account as to why this road is not fixed, or that is not working, or a primary health care is not, functioning, because now they have the money to so do. Right. There's no longer the excuse of, I do not know where I will be able to meet the state governor and all that to talk about the road or whatever you need. And not always you can't walk up to the secretariat right now and ask your local government chairman, council chairman on healthcare, education, and all of that directly. Absolutely. This is a good one. A very good one right there. NJC voids suspension of Benue CJ by state government. We will discuss that a little later. And finally, Tinubu fair to all regions, say Bagudu. This is the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, letting everyone know that President Bola Tinubu is fair to all regions. I think that's where we would let it off for the Nation this morning. And that will take us to The Punch. The Punch this morning, U.S. aid Boko Haram controversy. Nigeria may miss $603 million fund. The Senate have also summoned the service chiefs. Borno asks federal government to lead the probe. U.S. 2025 budget targets defense, health, and others. I think this story is also focusing on the recent controversy that we've seen around the U.S. aid. But it's good that the Senate is, asking people to come and give an account, to come and clear out this accusation, because this is a dent, so to speak. But that will take us to another story on the top of the Punch papers. Again, CDS defends handling of Canadian visa application. I see on another paper where he was quoted as saying that, they will not take any form of disrespect. While we're also talking about that, let's also acknowledge the fact that some of these delegates were actually, granted these visas, just not all the delegates. While we as a nation are also looking at, getting respect, gaining respect, maintaining our respect, we must also, try our best to be independent, so to speak. I understand that they had a meeting or something to honor war veterans, and that's what resulted in what we are saying. Nigeria, there's no way you talk about Africa and Nigeria doesn't come up as number one. Nigeria is the giant. You see Africa. That everywhere. Absolutely.
and we are the place to go. And so any form of disrespect by any nation to Nigeria cannot be accepted. However, as Nigeria and Nigerians, we need to put our foot on the ground to develop our country so that no man anywhere would look down on us anyhow.
Right, and that will be it for the Punch newspaper this morning.
Nigeria is our next paper this morning. And something at the top nameplate right there, a continuing story on the tax reform. National Assembly begins public hearing on tax reform bills from Monday. Remember, I think about 2 weeks or thereabout ago.
We talked about this.
Yeah,
we saw that
when the House of Reps softened their stance. That's what the Nation newspaper actually reported saying. And the floor was open to public hearing. And so that is commencing from Monday. And so everyone concerned, put your acts together. So when you appear, you would present a strong argument in favor of Nigerians. And the header there, you say Boko Haram funding, Senate summons NSA, DSS, NIA over weighty allegations. Intelligence agencies chiefs, confirmation can strain Nigeria, U.S. diplomatic relations. Okay. And look at this. FCT residents, Lord Wike for opening Kamo District market. That's one of the, big markets in that area, and so they were clamoring for that to be open. But the minister was trying to make sure things are in order. Mr. Construction.
I mean, the FCT minister for that. In terms of infrastructure, he is not one to take the back seat.
Absolutely
and
not.
This market now is another opportunity, another avenue to make that area more busy for people to also involve themselves in businesses. But there's another story that I think you are yet to take.
It's really concerning.
Which is more concerning here.
At the bottom of this Nigeria right there, UNICEF worried over child poverty rate in Jigawa, calls for urgent action. This indeed needs some urgent action. Child poverty, we talked about this some time ago, Lamide, and I've said it over and over again. I've traveled quite a number of times to the north. There's a particular governor I spoke to, a former noun, and he told me that when he resumed as the governor of his state, went around different local government, he saw classrooms under a tree.
Right.
And that's part of what we're talking about, child poverty. This cannot be allowed to linger in any part of this country. Well,
it cannot be allowed to linger in any part of this country. And that's example you just made is even just on education. Access to, health facilities, access to, what a child needs for their age, and they should be able to, get that. And so this takes us to what are the causes? Why are we still having these issues? Because this is not the first time we've heard UNICEF mention things like this.
Exactly.
And despite, intervention where we see that some of the state governors also try their best to, intervene or probably reduce the statistics, it all seems that we are probably not making as much headway like we should make. And this is a security concern because, at the end of the day, these persons, if they're not taken care of properly, a child can be utilized in a wrong way. They can be, they have the tendency to, to be recruited in, some groups that we do not want to, talk about, so to speak. And so it's important that this is addressed from the roots. If not, this will linger.
Absolutely. But that'll be it for this Nigeria this morning.
Well, and that's going to take us to Nigeria News Direct. And on Nigeria News Direct, which is also talking about the USAID rather, where the Senate has summoned the NSA and the DSS. We're waiting for an update on that. But we see something here on the bottom of Nigeria News Direct, which says Obasa dismisses allegation of firearms discovery in Lagos Assembly Office. I'm not sure I have so much comment
to say about that.
We'll just leave that to the security agencies. But we see something here. Osun APC chairman resume despite state's curfew, freeze all cancel accounts. These issues that we're still seeing in the local government, should not be allowed to fester. We saw the IGP saying that the security agencies should do all they can to ensure that, peace is restored in that state.
We are talking about local government autonomy, and the people of Osun State deserve good governance.
Right.
And so we are continuing on our call for peace in Osun State so that the people do not suffer what is going on there.
And there's something here. Knocks kudos as experts, clerics debate proposed Sharia court in the Southwest region. Well, that's new. I mean, there have been a lot of, reactions to that. Some say it's going to work. Some say it's likely not going to work. But we'll leave that to those who are proposing this in a debate. Edo inaugurate tax appeal commissioners HAPS on curtailing tax evasion. How do we raise revenue when some persons are still evading tax at this point? As a Nigerian, as owners of heads of organizations, you should know at this point that that should not be the question.
And that's a very strategic move by the Minister of Finance while they're doing that to set up that I think it's a 12 or 24, can't remember now, 50-man TAT committee to sit over tax evasion conversations and see how tax can be increased for some big companies like manufacturing companies, pharmaceuticals and so on and forth, so that everybody can pay your tax as at when due. I mean, when my salary comes in, something leaves it to somewhere.
It's good that the minister is actually doing this. A follow-up is actually necessary, as we see in other climes some countries who majorly, depend on tax.
Exactly.
Taxation is also another form of, generating revenue. This helps, the state themselves to run, helps the nation to run. It's good what the minister is doing. But that's what we have on Nigerian News Direct. And
the Nigerian Tribune will be our next paper. Again, the conversation on the Senate inviting our service chiefs to come and speak on the alleged funding of Boko Haram by USAID. But something at the top nameplate right there, illegal dissolution of elders treasonable. This is according to the AGF in reaction to the ongoing political crisis, local government crisis in Osun State. Nigeria sues Binance for $81.5 billion economic tax losses. Well, we're waiting to see the end of that matter. And there was a report yesterday where the Mela Kyari, reacted to the accusations of bad fuel. And he's responding here to say, dispel fuel quality rumor, says it's bad marketing tactics. Or antics. Well, let's see how far that would really be. Edo Assembly sacks all political appointees. Possibly Governor Pebble is trying to clean the house.
Well, clean the house in quotes. Let's leave that in quotes. I mean, he can, employ, or he can, bring into service anyone that he thinks can do the job. And so when there's a new person in place who decides that, oh, these are our old ants, this may not align with my ideology and all of that. I don't think it's really a big issue to have, a clean house, so to speak. And then in reaction to, the Kyari story, we saw the NNPCL saying that they've not imported fuel yesterday in 2025. And in reaction to that, you especially said that we're just getting into the year and it's too early.
I mean,
and I'm wondering why exactly some persons will want to bring down the quality
of petrol that comes into this country
when we know how it affects lives, how it affects income and all of that.
And vehicles can get knocked if the quality of fuel you bring in is pretty bad. But then, especially importers and the big players in that sector are still questioning. We can do the importation. NNPCL should just regulate and make sure that things go in place, and then the Dangote refinery is also there. It's a whole lot of complex political power structure, in the oil sector.
In the oil sector, and really. It's not, the first day we've heard things like this, always hearing about a lot of interference, so to speak. We saw Dangote also making a statement yesterday. Well, in summary, what he said was that he is going through a lot since he started.
But don't forget that President Bola Tinubu, before he began, I mean Dangote now, had given a go-ahead for the NNPC to supply him crude, to supply Dangote refinery crude. And so that was part of what the president did to soften his beginning.
Soften his beginning,
right.
actually. That's why they have been saying, I mean, the NNPC can actually work as a regulator in this situation. It helps to also balance the market, helps the relationship with the marketers and also, you know, private owners, those who want to, you know, also sell fuel in the country.
Well,
but,
one more story before we let off on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Kebbi APC holds rally, declares support for Tinubu. 2027 drums are already rolling. I think that's where we'll let it off for the Nigerian Tribune.
And that takes us to the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper, the AGF and AFCC are talking tough, cautioning governors rather, local government bosses on treason and also fraud. We're talking about this money that is about to come in.
Everybody's gearing up for it.
Gearing up for it. And so they are warning you ahead, and you're not going to, you know, run after your tenure, just run somewhere. Young man, you will be picked if you mismanage funds. That's what the EFCC is saying. Good news for Nigeria. Nigeria secures 1.6 billion naira AI investment from Microsoft.
This is fantastic. Again, remember that the president in some of his travels has been championing, you know, that course. And so we're seeing Google, remember? And now Microsoft is also falling in line. I mean, young people in this country, especially tech-savvy ones, y'all have a lot of things to be excited about. And maybe some of us should also fall in line so we can benefit from, you know, such investments as this.
Well, I mean, whether you like it or not, you're already
in line.
Using technology. You're already in line. When you check your phones and all of that, you already have access to, you know, artificial intelligence, tech tools and all of that. So you do not necessarily have to feel like you went to study and all of that about technology. You can just fall in line.
I'm talking about not just benefiting from what is there. I mean creating so I can get some of that money into my pocket. That's what I'm talking about.
I just knew that's where you were going. But of course we will be expecting that. And now we see Lagos Assembly Speaker denying the mass defection rumors. There have been rumors as to whether she has moved from a particular party, whether she has stepped down as the Speaker of the House, and she's clearing that this morning that she is still the Lagos State Speaker of the House. And we see something on the bottom of the Guardian newspaper which says federal government is expected to ban 60,000-litre petrol tankers as accident claims, 3,500 lives. Yeah, imagine the figures of, you know, how many persons lost their lives to tanker accident last year. Again,
remember last week or thereabout, we took a story. The federal government, you know, declared that they are all out to stop the continuity of, you know, tanker explosion. And so if this is part of the strategy to reduce that, then, well, sometimes some policies are hard, but when you look at the number of lives lost and properties affected, then we need to go this route.
I think this is sort of a reminder for when the use of motorcycles, the Okada in Lagos State, were banned, and we saw a lot of reactions to that.
Right.
But you can imagine the figures of, you know,
accident rates
that has reduced. And now, whether you're rushing in Lagos or not, you will still have to use a particular form of transportation.
And get to where you want to go to.
And nothing is going to happen. But it's better that way to save the lives of, you know, citizens, save the lives of Nigerians. So I think it's a great move for Nigeria. But that's what we have on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
The Blueprint will be our next paper this morning. Again, the conversation around Osun crisis and the reinstated APC chairman. But there is a picture story right there on the Blueprint. This is the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, and the former Akwa Ibom governor, Victor Attah, and the younger brother to the late Edwin Clark on a condolence visit to the family of Edwin Clark, you know, to condole with the family. Wonderful one there. Encomiums and, you know, condolences are coming from all over the country, from different quarters, paying their respect to the man who, again, in my use of word, contributed his quota to the development of the Niger Delta especially, and Nigeria as a whole. And another one on fiscal autonomy, we've taken this, you know, the CBN has said that that has not commenced yet, that there are some documentation and due diligence delay that is, you know, causing the process not to begin, says implementation committee yet to submit report. We have to be sure that once this money comes to the local government, they will be able to manage it and tell us exactly what they did with that money. But that's where we will leave it for the blueprint.
And that takes us to Daily Trust newspaper. And, of course, is talking about the federal government's intention to bar 60,000-litre fuel tankers from roads March 1st. This is good. However, we are seeing that the Association of Road Truck Drivers are saying that the policy will cost truck owners 300 billion naira. Some 172 oil truck accident, 1,896 deaths reported since 2009.
That is too much, Olamide. That is absolutely too much. Just out of sometimes carelessness on the roads, you know, by the truck drivers. The lives of the people is not worth the money you're making. So if the government has to take a stand so that we can no longer lose lives, then please, should I say on behalf of the federal government, we're sorry.
Don't do that.
But it's a serious matter, really, when you compare the lives of people to that. Now, we understand how that this can affect businesses, but I'm sure that the government and the people would be able to find some level playing ground where everybody can go home happy at the end of the day. But let's put lives first before money, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you for saying that. Let's put life first before money, because at the point where we now start to, you know, put money above lives, then I think everyone is no longer safe. And so this may lead to actually, you know, loss. 300 billion is a lot. But when we consider the lives that we've lost in this process, I think this may be the way to go. But there is another interesting story here, Nelson. Man kills friend after serving him meal.
I mean, we're seeing an increase of that matter. Of this kind of there's a word I wanted to use, but I'm not sure I can say that. This kind of killings, you know, whether it's husband and wife,
marriage issues,
or boyfriend and girlfriend, as it were. We need to be able to understand that no matter the issue you have with one another or with another person, taking the matters into your hands to the point where you kill that person is never the way to go, no matter what. There are quarters wherein such issues can be handled if you have any dispute with anyone, but snowballing into killing a person is a no-no. I
mean, sometimes in defense, some persons say, you know, possibly the person was frustrated. But there is no level of frustration that should make you take someone's life. We're also talking about an increase in the rate of suicide in the country. Taking your own life is even a criminal act. And let's not even talk about taking another person's life.
No.
We saw a story here yesterday where a husband and a wife killed themselves.
Exactly.
And so while the wife killed the husband, or the husband killed the wife at first, then killed herself or himself, that's a big deal. That seems or is pointing down to possibly a breakdown in values, married values.
Remember the
values.
one that they went to court, that the wife was, you know, telling the court that
the husband poured petrol.
Exactly. And then there's another one we also took earlier this week, where a mother killed her son, 16-year-old, and his girlfriend. I mean, my God. I don't know why this is somewhat on the increase, but let's look after each other, please, you know, one way or the other, just to ensure that the next person is fine up here, you know.
Okay, another story here, which says a battle at Wheat Battle of wits, rather. Lagos order state assemblies involved in speakership crisis. I know it's not just Lagos that is experiencing, you know, this issue of speakership. But I think we should get to a point where the lawmakers, the state lawmakers, can exist independently from the governors or the local, the state governors themselves. And they can also, you know, exist in peace. There should be a way around it, rather than this old drama that we see almost every 2 markets.
There is a reason why we have three tiers of governance, right?
Which are expected to be independent.
Exactly.
Autonomous in nature.
You know, so that each other can check the other person and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so when we have some interfering issues like this, and the House, who is supposed to do the check for the executive, the legislature now, who is supposed to do the check for the executive, you know, is not itself in order, then we have some political wahala on our hands, which leads to a breakdown in the delivery of dividends to the electorate who elected, you know, both members of the executive and the legislature into the House. We can't allow this to continue to be the narrative in our politics.
I want to hope that we'll get a lasting solution to that. But we see something on the bottom of Daily Trust, which is also, you know, the Senate summoning NSA, DSS, NIA over the terrorism funding allegation. But Akpabio is saying aid agency offices have no business in Nigeria if found to be true.
Well, you know, this is a conversation that has snowballed into different angles.
I mean, some persons have said that non-governmental organizations who also get support, who also get aid to, you know, go through many initiatives and all of that, may also be affected. Let's not forget that most of the times these persons or these NGOs also serve as a bridge, a gap sometimes with the government and the people.
The people, yeah.
And some of these aids that they provide sort of, you know, lessen some of the burden that we see. We see them in the prisons, see them in health facilities. But now that we are seeing that, you know, they're also saying that they do not have businesses in Nigeria, aid agencies, so to speak.
Well, that's why the senators asked the top echelon of our security agencies to come and explain what is really going on, because they would have the answers to those questions and, you know, calm the fears in the hearts of Nigerians as to, is this really true? You know, even though I think you mentioned something earlier that the U.S. government has said that, you know, this can't be the case. But we will wait to hear the outcome of that
investigation.
Exactly, to see if that is true in any form at all. But as it is now, they are saying that they are not, you know, bringing aids any longer. So,
recall that we had, you know, the WTO World Trade Organization boss, Okonjo-Iweala, so to speak. He also mentioned that, you know, African nations have to rely on themselves. This over-reliance, over-dependence has to stop. But that's what we have on our Daily Trust this morning.
Absolutely. And that's where we'd let it off for the newspaper review segment this morning, where we bring in now Veronica and Ibrahim to continue with the rest of the program.